Okay, finally doing it. Today, we're going to talk about the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, and I'm going to attempt to do a similar approach that I did with Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive and not just gush, and try and help you decide if this very popular, beloved fantasy trilogy is for you. And I say this as a fan who loves this with all my heart. If I had thousands of dollars, I would buy the Subterranean Press editions, but I do not. So keep in mind, I am a big fan, but I'm actually just going to try and use this video to talk about different aspects of it that seem to be how people decide if they really enjoy it or don't. And I was going to put them out, but they're just right here. So this is the Broken Earth trilogy. So the first thing we probably should talk about is content. I feel like content can make or break it, because this is actually a really dark series, and it discusses a lot of dark themes, and it does it in a very close way. It doesn't allow you to have distance from a lot of the tragic events that happen in this narrative. The first page of this book, you watch the main character have to deal with the fact that her young baby son is no longer alive. Like, that's the type of dark content that is in this series. And it doesn't stop there. This is a world with a lot of prejudice. There are lots of people that are basically indentured servants because of abilities they have. They are not allowed to be citizens of that world. We're also dealing with an apocalypse. The first book's called The Fifth Season, and what that means is, you know, you have your standard 4 seasons, presumably, right? Fall, winter, spring, summer. But a 5th season is an apocalyptic season, and Earth is angry. Father Earth is always giving 5th seasons, and there are ways society has evolved to handle that, and that's really fascinating to explore. But apocalypses are dark. There are people who come together, and you do get that camaraderie, but more often than not, there's a lot of fending for yourself energy. The landscape is bleak. There is not a lot of hope to be had. So we have a lot of these angles. You know, we have these oppressed individuals with magical powers, we have an apocalypse, and we have a main character who on the first page is going through one of the most traumatic events in her life. And I say one of, there are several. So, it's dark content. If you want a happy fantasy series, this is not happy. I wouldn't say it's the most tragic thing I've ever read, but if you don't like a lot of tragedy in your storytelling, I would probably pass on this one. I also briefly mentioned the setting. So again, it's an apocalyptic setting, and there is a pretty cool magic system, and I would say that it's on the harder side of a magic system than a soft, and what I mean by that is there are more strict rules to it. It is less soft magic, which can sometimes be nebulous. You don't necessarily know the rules. The author can do what they want with it, and it's up to you to kind of decide as the reader if they went too far and made it a plot convenience or something. And this is more grounded in science, although it does leave room for interpretation. It's definitely more in that middle space, but I say it leans more hard, mainly because a lot of the comparisons made with this magic system are to thermodynamics and energy reserves and conservation of energy and stuff like that. And this is orogeny. And the closest similarity to it is earthbending in terms of elemental magic. You have these individuals who can sense the world, so they can sense the vibrations of the earth, but also manipulate those vibrations to do other things. This can be manipulating the heat around areas. This means they can move things. There's a lot of things they can do, and you also kind of get lenses of people learning on their own. And these individuals are obviously very powerful, which is why they are oppressed by other people, because they don't want these individuals to cause a 5th season, even though that idea becomes counterintuitive as you read the series. So if you are looking for a magic system that is grounded in these kind of like geological types of magic systems, it's really interesting, and how you learn it is actually fascinating. You learn about it from our main character, and then from another character who's much younger and kind of just like stumbling, which is a really fascinating conversation about like learning and, you know, what it means to learn either through a rigorous school system or just by creativity, just by play, which, you know, is a part of the human experience. Is humans love to learn. We forget that, but humans innately love to experience their surroundings in new ways and catalog that information. So I think the magic system is really cool. It's definitely not like the highlight. I think definitely the character experience and just the general dread of the surroundings is more of a highlight, and the discussion of all the themes. And another thing, the elephant in the room, is that there is a point of view written in second person. So now we just have to talk about the narrative structure, the writing style, because, I mean, this is the part that I think makes or breaks most people's experience with these novels. So there is a second person point of view section. It is very intentional, and if that is not a deal breaker for you, the payoff is amazing. Absolutely stunning payoff if you're willing to work through it. It never bothers me. I read this before I was on BookTube. I've always been horrible at keeping track of tenses. And so when I read this, I didn't even clock that there was a section in second person point of view. I actually really like reading in second person, so it's the opposite of a deal breaker for me. But I know for a lot of individuals, this is really jarring. But I will say that I think it's executed phenomenally and has an amazing payoff if it's just really not a thing that halts your experience in reading it. Now, if you want, there is a narrator, Robin Miles, who does all of these books in audio, and it kind of evokes that whole you're being told a story sort of sense. So if you consume it that way, maybe it's less jarring than when you're using your own internal narrating voice. I don't know, depending on how you read. There's many ways people read, whether visually, auditorily, etc. And I don't know, I really like it, but a lot of people don't. But I'm just here to say that it has huge payoff and consequences and literally led to one of my most oh shit moments in a reading experience ever. You also have two other perspectives in the first story that are written in your more traditional third person point of view. And some people, I can't relate to this, but some people have said that Jemison's writing style to them is tedious. I cannot relate to this sentiment, but just know it's there. And if you feel that way while you're reading it, this is probably not the series for you. And in general, I probably wouldn't recommend any Jemison book to you because her writing style is consistent across her works. I have a Jemison guide video where I talk about all of them, and her writing is consistent to me throughout. She has a very strong voice, and I like her storytelling voice. I like having Jemison tell me a story. She talks in a very conversational way. She likes to do little asides within sentences, within parentheses that make me chuckle. And I loved also hearing that when I also was listening to it with Robin Miles' narration. So I enjoy it both auditorily, reading it physically with my eyes. I really enjoy her prose. And I know when I'm reading Jemison prose, I can feel the satire and the sarcasm and the pain. Like, I feel like she's telling me a story, that this is this author telling this story, which some people maybe don't like to have an author's voice be so pronounced. But for me, especially since I like this voice, it's fantastic. So yeah. That's what I have to say about that. Other things that might interest you is that the actual world building in terms of communities and the different races and species are really cool, based a lot in like evolution and like cultures. Like, this is not our Earth. Like, it's a different Earth, if that makes sense. But it definitely takes a lot of how things evolved from how things might have evolved here. And she actually has blog posts on it, so you can always learn more, but everything you need is within this book. There is a glossary. I've never used it, but there is a glossary. If you keep stumbling upon a word and it's like, I need to know what that means, and it's a fake word, there's a glossary in the back. So yeah, I feel like those are all the things you need to know if you need to pick this up, if it needs to be on your TBR. My biased opinion is yes, it's one of the few series that every book has won a Hugo. I think the only trilogy where that is the case. One last thing I guess I should mention for people who read the first book, then go into the second and third, is there is a narrative moment in the first book that is part of this payoff that I was alluding to previously. And it is a moment that most people agree is just like, whoa, what just happened? I didn't expect that. That's awesome. And then they go into books 2 and 3 kind of waiting for and expecting similar things and then being disappointed because that's not what those stories are meant to do. And I guess for me, I was unfortunately spoiled for the thing that everyone goes whoa for in the first book. It didn't hinder my experience whatsoever. I still loved it. Any good story can survive being spoiled, in my opinion. I don't like to be spoiled, but it can survive it. And I thought all 3 were of the same quality. It's a series that I'm going to be rereading over and over again. So, if you have any other questions, though, let me know or talk to me in the Discord. Feel free to politely put in any thoughts you have that should be a pro or con for people, spoiler-free, in the comments. If I see any spoilers, I will automatically delete them just because I want this to be a spoiler-free, safe place for people to come. And if you want to leave an emoji just to let me know you're here, leave an earth, I guess, or a rock, or a volcano. Any of those are fine with me. And like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.